Call to order the regular City Council meeting for Monday, December 16th at 2024 at 5:30 p.m. At this time, I'd ask you to put your phones on silent or vibrate as to limit interruptions. Moving on to the agenda, item 1, roll call.
Blessum.
Here.
Fuller.
Here.
Janser.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Pittner.
Here.
Ross. Here. Samuelson.
Here. Item 2, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item number 3, the mayor's report. I do have a few events and meetings that I have attended since our last meeting. Did have a Team Minot breakfast at the Minot Air Force Base. Some flood work, construction, traffic reroute discussions happened over the last couple weeks. Discussion over some food truck options for the Minot Air Force Base, Trinity Hospital discussion, some one-on-ones, workforce council meeting in a state workforce council meeting in Bismarck was held, Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, community action discussion on the homelessness situation in Minot, several holiday celebrations. Also hosted the Cub Scout Troop 4421 here at City Hall, Task Force 21 meeting, community leadership engagement at the Minot Air Force Base. We also met with the newly elected members of the state legislature from the area, and also finally, to wrap it up, attended and took part in the opening ceremonies of the North Dakota State Special Olympics basketball tournament this weekend at the Minot State University Dome. So, are there any questions of the mayor's report? Seeing none, we will move on to, I've got a proclamation to read. Let's have the team come forward. Thanks. Kind of sliding off here. The mayor proclaims December 16th as Minot High School Bowling Team Appreciation Day. Whereas the Minot Public School District features outstanding education and extracurricular opportunities, including the Minot High School Club Bowling Program, and whereas the Minot High School team recently won another state title, claiming the 2024 North Dakota State Bowling Championship after previously winning state championships in 2012, 2017, and 2023. And whereas the athletes who make up the 2024 team are Max Beater, Tatum Lee, Sean Roberts, Michaela Kuhl, Landon Olson, and Zakai Mason. And whereas the bowling program is led by head coach Jeff Craig and statistician Jen Beater, who helped guide the team to another impressive state championship. So now, therefore do I, Tom Ross, Mayor of Minot, North Dakota, hereby proclaim December 16th, 2024 as Minot High School Bowling Appreciation Day and encourage all Minot residents to celebrate the team's 2024 state championship and recognize the team members and coaches for another season of excellence that continues to bring academic and athletic pride to the Magic City and to the Minot Public School District. Signed by myself and Michaela McWilliams, clerk of the City of Minot. So congratulations, team. Thank you. Now moving on to reports. Item number 4 on the agenda. First, 4.1, City Manager's Report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any with regards to the memo that's prepared and in the council packet this evening.
Are there any questions in the City Manager's Report?
And if there's none of those, typically the second meeting of every month we would have a finance update and presentation, but both our finance director and comptroller are at a finance conference and unavailable but attending remotely tonight, so we will bypass that presentation this evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mike.
Just one comment on the report. Good news coming through the report from the finance department. We are running about 20% ahead on sales tax again. sales tax receipts versus the budget. So that's good news as we look forward into the 26 budget season and everything that we're headed for there. And so just wanted to make that comment that we're seeing that same result that we've seen the last couple of years.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments or questions of the city manager's report? Seeing none, we will move on to item 5. 5.1, consider the report of the Planning Commission. And there's no action needed on that, is there? Let's move on to item 6, consent items. There are 22 items on the consent agenda. Are there any that need to be pulled? Any that need to be pulled? Seeing none, what are the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Paul, second by Mike. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to action item number 7 on the agenda. Action item 7.1, budget amendment for snow blower with trade-in. What are the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to item 7.2, extended stay leisure fee ordinances. What are the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rob. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mike.
A question, and I don't know if Steph needs to answer it or if someone from city staff can. Can you refresh me? Is there a law that prohibits collecting the 3% lodging tax for all stays? Is there something in state law that sets it at 30 days, or is that in our ordinance, or where does that exist?
Stephanie, hang on one sec. Mike, can you just pull the mic?
Oh,
and,
sure.
and I'll remind the rest of the council just to pull the mic a little bit closer. We do have speakers above us, so it sounds like it's loud, but in the back they have problems hearing us. So, yeah.
Did you get it, Steph?
I believe I did. Mayor Ross and Alderman Blessum, if I'm understanding what you're asking is the 30-day that's in Century Code, that law? You're asking about if it's in state law or local, is that correct?
Well, really, my main question is what is prohibiting us from just applying the 3% that we've already got to all stays?
There's nothing preventing that. Would you like me to give a little background as to why the $1 per night is suggested? So when we, explored all the different ways of doing this, Alderman Blessum, we kind of came up with the $1 leisure fee for a few reasons. One is, sometimes for those extended stays, there's a lot of different contracts for what that can look like. And so 3% on, I'm going to give an example of an out-of-state thing. 3% on something that's costs $15 a night, and then there can be fees on top of that. And so then with the agreement that you're suggesting, it would be 3% of what could be written to contract as a lower amount. So there's a few ways of getting around that. And so the $1 per night leisure fee was just kind of a flat way of it not being a tax and it just being a fee.
If I can continue, Mr. Mayor. So, and again, the only reason that I'm asking it, we've got the innkeeper saying everybody's in support. I mean, this all makes sense to everybody. It seems it's just a layer of complication, right? We're saying, if you're under 30 days, you don't need to do this part, but you're going to pay this part. We know part of this is to try to avoid some of the manipulation that we can see in how things are handled in the first place. And I'm trying to remember all the conversations, both that we had in front of us and just making sure I was clear on it. And I couldn't remember whether there was a prohibition somewhere that actually stopped that. So right now, an alternate proposal is just apply 3% all the time to every stay.
Mayor Ross and Alderman Blessum, yes, that could be an option. I'm not sure if that was Mr. Lakefield weighing in or not. And I just to answer the letter from the Minot Innkeepers Association that I sent over late today. I received that this afternoon. I'm speaking for them, so I'm trying to be careful because I don't represent that organization. But when they say they're supporting of the $1 leisure fee, I don't think that they're not saying that over the 3%. I don't believe that's what the point of that letter is at all.
I'm going to jump in. Our Finance Director, Dave Lakefield's online, wants to add something to this.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Blessum, State Center Code 40-57.3-01 limits that to stays of less than 30 days.
Okay, and thanks, Dave, that is what I was looking for. So,
Okay.
so there is something in state law that this aligns to, and that makes this all kind of lay out. Okay, yes. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Any other questions of Stephanie since she's up at the podium? Thank you, Steph. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to item 7.3, the 3rd Street Bridge Repair Engineering Consultant Selection. What are the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd move it.
We have a motion by Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, did I hear Lisa? Discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to item 7.4, ratify the acceptance of the insurance settlement and release of property damage. What are the wishes of the council?
Approval.
We have a motion by Paul. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Discussion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote.
Motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to action item 8 on the agenda, personal appearances. Now is an opportunity for those who wish to speak to the council. Now is your opportunity to come forward. Seeing nothing, we will move on to item 9 on the agenda, miscellaneous and discussion items. 9.1, the fire department staffing presentation. At this time, I'll ask Chief Kelly to come forward.
Mayor, members of council, thank you so much for having me up here. A couple months ago, I was up talking about Lexipol and hiring them to do our SAFER grant. And the question came from Alderman Blessum of how many. And so this is to answer your question. At the end of this, I would really like some action from this body to give me direction as far as how many. I do have in the staffing plan 6, but if we need to adjust it from there, that's great. Just would like a little bit of direction to give to Lexipol as we move forward with writing that grant. So I would like to first thank T and the PIO office for all their help for this.
You may have heard about NFPA 1710, the industry standard for career fire departments. But what is it, and what does it mean for our community? Your house is on fire. It's your worst nightmare. In just 3 minutes, a fire can grow 16 times larger than when it started, and it continues to grow bigger and faster every second. Once the clock starts ticking, there's a shrinking window of opportunity to save lives and property. You want a full crew of firefighters to put it out quickly, or you may suffer a catastrophic loss. But how many are enough? 15, 20, 40? How do you decide? Fortunately, there's an internationally recognized industry standard, and it's called NFPA 1710. It's based on scientific evidence and research that establishes how many firefighters are needed to put out each fire and rescue anyone trapped. At a fire scene, you want a firefighter doing every job that needs to be done to save you and your house, And at a fire, there's a lot that needs to be done, like stretching the hose, hooking to a hydrant, searching for trapped people, venting the hot gases, and much more. For a low-hazard, single-family house fire, NFPA 1710 specifies a minimum of 16 firefighters dispatched in the initial alarm. At an open-air strip shopping center or garden apartment fire, the standard specifies a minimum of 27 firefighters dispatched in the first alarm. And for fires in high-rise buildings at least 7 stories tall, the data shows that the initial dispatch should be for a minimum of 43 firefighters, and that the fire department should send additional firefighters to situations that are beyond the capability of the initial alarm. When considering crew size on each engine and truck responding to a fire, the standard says that in low hazard response areas like residential neighborhoods, that the required number of firefighters on each fire engine and truck is 4. In areas with a high number of incidents or geographic restrictions like narrow roadways, single access bridges, or islands, a minimum of 5 firefighters on each fire engine and ladder truck is required. And in dense urban areas with high hazard occupancies like high-rise buildings, the minimum number of firefighters on each fire engine or truck is 6. Regardless of the type of property, 1710 also sets the time of arrival on scene within 4 minutes for the first engine with 4 firefighters. The 1710 standard for both response time and crew size is based on scientific evidence, not opinion. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, also known as NIST, and its partners conducted extensive research to document the optimal crew sizes for various types of structures. As a decision maker, you and firefighters share a common goal. Everyone gets out alive. So when a house is on fire, just remember it takes a minimum of 16 firefighters to put it out. And the responding crews should have the right number of firefighters on each engine and truck. The quicker the response time, the better the outcome for everyone. For more information, talk to your local firefighters. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.
So I did put a couple handouts on your desk. One is the handout from 1710 in case you had any questions after the presentation, as well as there's the CPSM report. I pulled out just the piece for staffing on what they have to say. So when we were looking at what kind of staffing for the next 5-6 years, we looked at the CPSM study that you guys were gracious to have conducted on us, which was great. It's great information. So as staff, we went through every CPSM recommendation. We went through 1710 again. We looked at our budget, as well as growth projections from city planning. And as we put this together, we focused on a few things. We focused obviously on the single-family dwelling. We focused on the apartments. We focused on open strip malls, as well as that meeting the 4-person engine company. There was a few constraints that we had to factor in, one being how many bedrooms we have. Yes, they do rest, as well as how many seats we have on the vehicles, because we're very constrained to that too. And we also used the 1.5 factor to accommodate for PTO and other leave that we need to have. So 2025, when I put the CPSM-22, if you look at the first bullet point, Deputy Chief, that's the reference to the CPSM study recommendation. So in 2025, we've already put in play, we were going to be hiring a Deputy Chief position. So that will eliminate one battalion chief position. That was the recommendation that came that felt that our structure that was flattened out a few years ago, we needed to have that hierarchy put back in. We also have a recommendation for an additional admin position. That was number 27. So we currently have a senior administrative position, and she is going to be retiring sometime in 25. And as we reassessed what the job duties are, her job has changed over the past couple years, one with our new payroll system. So that's eliminated that from her duties, as well as Munis and some other things. The greatest need that we have is procurement and grant analysis and grant following. I know that there's going to be some changes in our grants. That has been done through the finance office, but we do need some sort of assistance in the finance world. Our battalion chief does a lot of that for all of our grants and getting all the procurement. So what we would like to do is we would like to change that position after Lori retires sometime in 25 and get some sort of financial person into that area. We'll be bringing something else back to this body to look at that when her position opens up. But when we looked at everything, there was a request in the, or a recommendation in the study that says we should have an additional one. And we don't feel that we need an additional one. We just need to tweak the one we have and utilize our computer programs probably a little bit better. As we move into permitting and stuff like that, most of that is done on our inspectors' iPads. I do have the financial impacts on everything, so just so you are aware, and if you want to know where any of those numbers came from, I can forward them on. Sorry. In 2026, we recommend putting the fire marshal position into play again. We do have one fire inspector that is going to be retiring at the end of 25, and we will be coming to this body to ask for that position to be made into a fire marshal position. Again, giving that hierarchy back into that office. When we had a lot of turnover, we had to flatten the organization in both the areas of battalion chiefs as well as that office, because we just didn't have the people to fill those positions. So we'll be bringing those back. The additional firefighters would bring the ladders to 4-person engine companies or ladder companies. So this is where the ask is to hire 6 firefighters under the SAFER grant. It's a 3-year grant with 0 cost to the city for 3 years, and I do have those listed there, the impacts. The big impact would be the needs for the firefighters. Their gear is very expensive. Their uniforms, their medical physicals, as well as the EMT training. That would be about a $100,000 cost for those. So that would put the 2 trucks, one at Station 4 and one at Station 5, up to 4-person staffing. A full staffing would be 5, but with the minimum being 4. What we did is we put the engines down the middle of the city, and we put the trucks on each side. So then there's a truck, meaning a ladder, I'm sorry, ones with a big ladder on them, and the engines have the water. So the water's down the middle, the truck's on the side, so they'd be able to come in like that. So we don't have a truck being over at Station 5 having to run the whole way across in order to make it there in a timely fashion. So in 2027, recommendations would be to put in the field incident technician position, which is basically a battalion chief aide. That was a recommendation that came for succession planning. In the next few years, the deputy chief would be retiring, the battalion chiefs would be retiring, as well as myself. And this would be able to bring more captains up to our positions to be able to mentor and coach them and do the succession planning for the next group of battalion chiefs. That would require us to promote 3 captains into those positions, as well as to hire 3 firefighters. Those would be sunsetting in 2030, and I'll talk about that when we get there. When we get all the positions into play for the administrative positions as well as the battalion chief positions, we'd then be able to move those firefighters over to an engine, and we'd have full staffing on engine 1 at that point. We would need to do a little bit of remodel at Station 1 to accommodate for an additional bedroom, but it's very minimal at $10,000. 2028, that's when the SAFER grant would sunset at the end of that year. We'd be looking to add 3 firefighters to bring engine 2 up to 1710 standard. as well as we'd need to do preparations if we were going to add 3 firefighters. To bring Station 3 up to 4 firefighters, we'd have to put an additional bedroom on. The cost for that would be a $100,000 remodel that year, and then the 3 firefighters. 2029 would be adding 3 firefighters for Engine 3 up at the airport, and then the impact of the Safer Grant firefighters coming off would be hitting that year. The 2030, the field incident technicians, like I said, they'd be sunsetting, and then we'd be able to bring Engine 1 up to that 4-person engine company. So that is how I planned out the next 5-6 years using, again, 1710 as well as the CPSM recommendations. I know it's a lot, but it does bring us up to full staffing of 27, which is the recommendation for the open strip malls and stuff like that, and minimum staffing of 22. Beyond that, we'd have to add an additional house in this community, and that's something we can talk about too. I do have a few slides to talk about that, but my recommendation would be to move headquarters down south and not put on additional personnel. So. The infrastructure needs, we've talked about that before. As you can see in our heat mapping, we are getting much more call volume, kind of all over the middle area, but especially down south. And so our recommendation would be to look at that lower section of town. I presented, I think, at the last budget presentation, multiple areas that we've looked at. And, as we're master planning, and we've been talking about the police department and the library, municipal court, there's all those different things. Just to keep in mind, we should probably procure some land down south before it gets even more expensive. And we can look at moving headquarters down south to be able to accommodate for that. I know that was a lot that I just threw out there. So, is there any questions?
Are there any questions? Yes, Mike.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, so the way that you have the dollars laid out, do you have any sense as we get out into, let's say, 2030, which is kind of about where the plan takes us, what does that look like for additional just regular operating cost? Is it $1 million a year? Is it $2 versus where we're at today? You just have it laid out different than that, so I want to get it in my head the right way.
I would think it's about $1.5 million
Okay.
for all that staffing.
And that's regular operations. That's not the one-time things for buildings and stuff like that. It's
That's
just staffing,
operating
really.
costs. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
They increase.
Okay.
Is there any correlation? I know in the past you've given us some presentations about how that affects home insurance rates. What does this do to that, if any? Is there any effect?
We just went through an ISO evaluation, and we're going to be getting that report back in probably 6 months. If we move to a class 1, it may affect it a little bit. Again, only if they have an insurance company that does use ISO as a risk factor. But, it's just kind of lay us out better as a community if we move south. When you increase staffing, you get a little bit closer to the ISO 1. That is something they definitely look at. But this is not anything new. I mean, you look across the state, and many communities are moving their stations because you have to. I mean, your community grows, and you have to kind of master plan again, where is the best place to put us. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Mark?
Chief Kelly, remind me, what's our current response time average?
Average, I don't have the most current.
Okay,
I'm in kind of watch.
Could they give the 4 minutes, but I mean, where do we fall with regard to that?
We've been striving for 6 minutes, 20 seconds. That's what we've been working towards. With Station 5, we've been watching it a little bit, and I haven't been tracking the, in the last few months, I haven't tracked it to try to see more of a trending. And so we usually will put out a report here at the end of the the year, so I can get that to you.
Paul, then Lisa.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, you'd said, and this might just be wordsmithing, moving stations versus adding stations. Has there been discussions of, Station 1 moving it to the south side and no longer needing that station, or moving 2 of them to make it work?
We've plotted out a few different properties down south to see which would give us the best. The one that would be the best for us would be kind of right by Walmart area, because we can go right up and down Broadway really easy, as well as 37th there. We've also did a little bit of looking around for Station 2 area to see if there's a way to kind of close a gap. If I can go back.
Would that include removing any of the stations that are in any of those scenarios? Is there a scenario where one of the stations comes offline if you add one somewhere else?
Probably headquarters station would be the best one for us to abandon.
Okay.
Just because it's such, it's very limited in its response. It's hard to get out on 20th, and it's hard to get around. And it seems like we've had a lot of responses south. Our biggest gap is south. You can see at the country club area on the map that I popped up. The darker green is actually a 4-minute response time. The kind of opaque green or whatever is a 5-minute response time. So you can kind of see where we're at. Our biggest gaps are that south, down by Trinity, Country Club, and then there's that little gap between Station 4 and Station 2. But I don't worry as much about gaps in the middle because you can close them quickly, either one. But right now we have really long runs down to the Country Club area.
I can continue.
Yep.
And then you talk about, has there been any sites you've looked at as far as land? I mean, we do obviously city owns some land by the landfill. Is that a workable, already owned by the city of Minot idea? Well,
I've been looking at land that's already ours, and there isn't anything great for us. I wouldn't recommend just getting one because we have the land, because usually we end up in a spot where we really don't want to be. I'd rather get a spot that's the right spot because we're going to be there for a long time.
Lisa?
Thank you. So following the guidance or direction that we give you tonight, that will help secure the SAFER grant? Is that kind of the purpose of this conversation at this point? Is to secure the grant?
We've been working with Lexipol, and we have all the pieces ready to go. We just need a number.
Okay.
That's kind of that last piece.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Thanks, Mayor. Chief, so in your mind right now, is it your recommendation that this is the path, and the reasoning for now and really the reasoning for the rest of this is that, hey, we can essentially get 3 years of this paid for? I mean, CPSM is telling us we should already have this, right? This is sort of the minimum standards that we should be heading towards, and really the idea of the grant is it gives us a discount for 3 years. Am I thinking of that right?
Yes, you are correct. It's a heavy lift to go to 27 per shift from where we're at today.
Right.
So it's kind of incrementally working towards that. I mean, we certainly can write for a SAFER grant every year when they open. So those next 3, we can maybe write for a grant. But this first 6 would be really beneficial to kind of get that underneath, get that first leg underneath us.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any recommendations? What are you looking for?
I would like a direction on, are we allowed to write for 3 firefighters under the SAFER grant, or 6, or 18?
Mr. Mayor?
Mark? 18.
Oh, it's funny.
We're just checking to see if we're listening.
Yeah.
Mark?
One other question, Chief. Yeah. Okay, so we write a SAFER grant for 6. Are the grantors, is it 6 or nothing, or might they come back and say, we're giving you 4? Or, I mean, how does that, do you know how that works in terms of, is it based on how much money they have, or how does that work?
I have not seen where they come back and they give you 4, but
Okay.
Usually they give you what you ask for.
Mark?
Mr. Mayor, I guess given this information and what the standards are, and given that, there's clearly a need, and if we get the grant, then we have these firefighters paid for 3 years. So I guess I would make a motion that we apply, ask the chief to apply for 6 in the grant.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mark, second by Lisa. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mike?
So, and this goes back to my initial question for you, Kelly, and it's not a question, it's more a comment for my colleagues, is that we're now in the middle of December 2024 obligating ourselves for that $1.5 million that I just asked her about. So just want to make sure everybody's clear that that's where we're headed. Now our budgets going forward will have those dollars in them. That is our new baseline. Probably half of that now, because this is 6 of the 15, I think it would be, right? So a little less than half, but we are headed on a path that brings a ton of new obligation to our budget. And so we just need to keep that in mind, not necessarily that this isn't the right priority. That's not exactly my point. My point is all of those other general fund priorities that we talk about are impacted by this decision. We're now obligating ourselves and councils after us at this level. So just want to be clear about that to the public and to the rest of us.
Paul?
Question for Chief, what is the deadline to apply for you guys on this?
It has not opened yet.
Okay.
We're waiting.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Paul?
What's the plan if you don't apply? 6 years from now, do you still feel that that's an achievable goal? Granted, we'll have the ability to maybe have it paid for. If you apply for the grant and it's awarded, do you still feel 6 years from now you would have potentially 6 new firefighters? Obviously, that's the discretion of the council and the decision makers through that process, but is that as part of your capital plan to still lobby for those positions, whether this grant goes through or not?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Anything further for the chief? Thank you, Chief. We have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, please record your vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Moving on to item 9.2, the Visit Minot report. At this time, I'll ask Steph to come forward.
Thank you for your time tonight. I want to make sure I don't screw this up. I think I've got control over this. Okay, so in your packet tonight, you have 2, I guess I'll say reports from us, 2 attachments. The first attachment is the one that's addressed to City of Minot, Mayor Tom Ross, and that is the one where we are required by our contract to every year provide a response to the deliverables that are in our contract, right? And there's like 12 of those deliverables. And so in that report is really where we go down and this is our technical response where we check the box and say, yep, we did this, yep, we did that, right? So all 12 items I can report have been, all those tasks have been completed as per our contract for 2024. The other attachment presentation is the one that I would like to talk about this evening, and that's what you see on your screen. What this is more of, I like to say that, the other report is more of a checking the box that says, did you do the task? The answer is yes or no. This is more of a report of, did you do it well? And there are some things in here that, there's one piece, am I doing it wrong? Point it that way. Thank you. So this is the one thing I wanted to show, or there's 6 pages, but I want to talk about this for just a minute. As we know, the mission in the most simple terms is to say, our goal at Visit Minot is to get more humans here into Ward County from outside Ward County. That's the job. Well, when you look at the charts up on the screen, and I want to point out a couple things. Blue is 2024, and red is 2023. On the left, the monthly volume by visitor days, that is the average length of stay. And this is what we have to work on. On the right-hand side is the monthly visitation. This equates to the number of humans coming to Minot. So the short version, when you look at this chart, is there are more humans coming into Ward County. This, by the way, gauges people that are 50 miles. It's more than just outside of Ward County. It's more than 50 miles outside of Minot. So the monthly visitation shows there are more humans in 2024 that have come to Minot. The monthly volume, again, shows not as positive of a story. That is, again, the average length of stay, and you'll see February, June, and August is where the performance was better, meaning people were staying longer in those, the average length of stay in those months was more than the previous year for the same month. Moving on to the next one. Credit card spend. Now I can slice and dice this data. This is through Datafy. We've talked about this lots of times. What you see here in front of you is credit card spend from five segments: retail, gas, grocery, accommodations, and restaurant. This is all spend. So this includes people that live inside of Ward County, all credit card spend. And this does stop at the end of August because that's how far we have data through. What you can see, of course, is that, outside of Ward County, the amount of credit card spend comes from outside Ward County is at 30%. The reason that we watch this is because at the end of the day, that's credit card spend, which equates to sales tax, which equates to money in Minot for the city, for the businesses, and all of the businesses that we represent underneath the Visit Minot umbrella under tourism. What I can tell you, I didn't bring this chart because there could be lots of charts, but the stat that I did not put on here is that from January through August, when you slice the data to say, I only want to look at people who are from over 50 miles away, there was a 17% increase. Now keep in mind that's 17% counting only the people that live 50 miles away, so it's not the people in Minot. There was a 17% increase from 2024 over 2023 from January to August. And the reason those numbers are important for Visit Minot is because at the end of the day, when rubber hits the road, our job is to get more humans into Ward County. And at the end of the day, it's organic growth, because when people are coming here and spending their money in these businesses within those 5 categories that I talked about are spending money at those businesses, they're able to grow, and that's where we believe organic growth comes from. So that's an important metric for us. Before I go on to Canadian border crossings, the other little thing I want to talk about just real briefly, and the reason I say this is because it's caused me to reflect on this a lot lately. And that is, over the course of the last 5 years, I've been at Visit Minot now 5 years. And when you look at the 10-year span of Visit Minot and what hospitality has happened, obviously I was up here a few minutes ago talking about hospitality tax. In 2011 and 12 and 13, there was a lot of hospitality tax because there was between oil money and people living in hotels because their houses got flooded. There was a lot of funding coming in. And then in 2014, 2015, that number dramatically reduced for Visit Minot. I came in December of 2019, 3 months before COVID. And while COVID, I would say, didn't have a lot of gifts to it, one of the silver linings that I appreciate is it forced the Visit Minot board and me to really look at every dollar coming in, because humans weren't staying in hotels, right? And so our number went down a lot. And similar to what happens in your home when income changes and things like that, it forces you to take a real hard look at your mission, and where every dollar gets spent. And so I appreciate having that lens on, and I'm proud to say the Visit Minot board and the Visit Minot staff have not lost sight of that. We did some significant adjusting, and I'm proud to say that we're starting to see some of the benefits. We have more work to do. The next one I want to show you is Canadian border crossing. Speaking of the pandemic, what we did here is we track the amount of personal vehicle, and it's not we don't track this. The Border Patrol tracks this. We just watch their data. This is personal vehicles that have come across these 6 border crossings. These 6 border crossings are the ones that serve Minot the most. And it is a very slight win. We've worked really hard for this win, and so we are celebrating it in October. You can see the red line is the one from 2024. You know, of course, we're ahead of 2022. We better have been ahead than 2022. 2023, again, the same story. But, you know, comparing it to 2019, it's followed the same line. We were really close, and then again in October, we bumped up. I was hoping to have tonight data from our data company, Datafy. I asked them for a custom report, and about an hour and a half ago, she sent me an email saying, I can't get it to you today. I hope to have it tomorrow. So bummed about that, but at the end of the day, you know, and again, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying here about this little win, because I'm like, this doesn't mean that every human who's crossed the border has come to visit Minot. That's not what we're saying at all. But I get asked weekly, if not more often, what's happening with Canadian traffic. And so I really like to show data that isn't Visit Minot's, and this is one of those. The next thing I want to show you is, and you know what, I just realized I did not show data on here for the number of, we have a great increase of Canadians on our website as well. So one of the segments of what Visit Minot does is leisure tourism. And this breaks down our stats. You know, this is another great example. You know, on our report of the things that we have to say on our deliverables to the city of Minot, you know, we say, hey, we work on SEO, we work on search engine optimization, and we do work on search engine optimization. But at the end of the day, working on it is one thing. Showing success from that is another, and that's what you see in front of you. When you see website performance, organic search, this is another trick that you can show in advertising. For active users, there's 177,000 active users from January to November. This is, again, from our website stats. There was an increase, a significant increase. I didn't really want to include that. Why? Because a chunk of that came from paid advertising. And I don't think that's fair. Because if we say, hey, Visit Minot increased the budget by $5,000 to spend money to get people to come to the website, well, then it had better increased, right? So I didn't show that increase because I think it kind of shows a false positive. But that's why we broke down organic search and direct traffic. Organic search means people looking for, if they searched things to do for families in North Dakota, things to do for families in Minot, that's organic search. And that in the past 11 months, we had 164,000 impressions. Direct traffic is when people go to type in visitminot.org. Under digital media performance, we can see Facebook and Instagram both have had a very nice increase. Because I really like to be transparent, we didn't put it on the report, but I also like to share things that maybe didn't go that we'll be working on. One data set that we are working on is the amount of people that have come to our website from our email marketing is flat. It's actually down by about 0.5%, and we're not okay with that. And so there's a whole list of things that Visit Minot will be actively and aggressively pursuing in 2025. Visitor center traffic, these are the number of humans that come into the visitor center and sign our guest book. And you can see those stats as well. We were really proud to say that by June, at the end of June 30th, 2024, we had people from all 50 states. The 32 countries, we didn't hit that, I think it was until September 30th, if I remember right. But we hit all 50 states by June 2024. So we're happy with that one too. And then the last segment I want to talk about tonight is sports tourism. As some of you who are in this group know that we're involved from 5 years ago, sports tourism is an initiative that the Visit Minot Board decided to take on about 5 years ago. In here, you can see in 2024, we were actively participating with supporting 34 tournaments for an economic impact of $13 million. What you see on the right-hand side, and this is the difference. So in 2024, we worked with directly 34 tournaments. But I think this tells a story. On the right-hand side, you then also see that the top performing tournaments. So this is the top 10. And as with most things in business and otherwise, the top 10 gave us about 65% of the estimated economic impact. So there's a lot of smaller tournaments that are below that, but we support all of them because we've seen growth in some of these smaller tournaments, and we believe retention is oftentimes a more effective tool and costs less than acquisition. And so that's been our approach, and that's why we wanted to show the difference between the top tournaments versus all the tournaments we work with. And then 2025, so far, we have numbers from. Do I not have the number of tournaments? I apologize. I should have put the number of tournaments we have on here. But it's a projected economic impact of just under $12 million. We estimate that pretty conservatively. Because I'd rather come here in a year and tell you that it was more than that. So when I stand in front of you and tell you it's just under $12 million, it's because I'm confident we can deliver on that relatively easily. And so in a year from now, I'm not eating my words. And that's what I have for you tonight on Visit Minot. I can talk a whole bunch longer, but you know what? I feel like this does the best job of painting the picture and truly talking about outcomes and not just tasks.
Okay. Any questions, Steph? Mike.
Thanks, Steph. Just back to your slide on visitor days by month.
Yes, sir.
And so you have the monthly volume by visitor days, and I get that you're looking at length of stay versus bodies. So that I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what's going on dollars wise? And so two ways to think of that. One would be what's the spend going on in the hotels during those same periods, or what are you guys seeing from the 3% that flows through to you? So really that's what I'm getting at there is some of this driven by the economics going on in the hotels. If it's if rates are up 25%, people might be saying, well, let's not stay the extra night. And that's going to impact things pretty quickly. So do you have any data on that?
I do have some data on that. Thanks for the question, Alderman Blessum. So to answer your question, there's a lot of factors in there. I can tell you that hotel rates in Minot, North Dakota are not up 25%. I can show you a lot of stats that shows how Minot ranks in the state. And our growth for the average daily rate is paced slow compared to the rest of the state. What I can tell you as we've sliced and diced this, because we're trying to get to the answer, and what I can tell you, because you can't solve the problem if you don't know what it is, right? You can't find a solution if you don't really know what the problem is. From our analysis, I'll tell you that I believe there's a few things going on here. One of them is the economy, and that isn't necessarily the cost per hotel night. It is what humans are doing and how they're pinching their pocketbooks just a little bit harder. I did a media interview this week with Regina. It's called Global News out of Regina. And the entire story was all about people still having the desire to travel. It's just that they're not traveling as far or spending as much money. And so, for instance, this isn't just about Canadians, but I'll just, because it gives that a good analogy. We are hearing from Canadians, they still want to go. They still want to go do stuff, right? But rather than getting on a plane and going wherever, they'll do either shorter getaways or closer getaways. And so I can tell you, as we've shared this data with the state as well, we're seeing a similar trend. You know, that the number of hours that people stay, a lot of them are whipping through. I just remembered I should have showed another stat, and I didn't. This is the stat that I showed at that Economic Development Committee, Alderman Blessum, and it talked about the North Dakota versus the South Dakota chart. And you know what? I'm going to send this out I'll send it out tomorrow. I'll send it to you, Michaela, so you can send it to the entire council tomorrow, because this is a miss on my part. And the whole narrative is from tourism economics. The entire narrative shows that there are more humans that come to North Dakota for tourism than South Dakota. The number is 24 million versus 17 million. However, they're zipping right through North Dakota. They are here for a night or two, and we see them when they're coming from out of state. When we see them in Minot, they're usually here for a few hours. That's why the Department of Commerce is putting so much more had put so much more into the destination development, is to try and get, when they get to North Dakota, get them to stay longer. So when we look at, monthly volume, the average length of stay, we're seeing when people are in Minot, they are here and getting back on the road, and they're hitting the highlights, right? They're hitting the top stuff and moving on the road.
Mr. Mayor, if I can continue. So back to my comment from earlier from Harold's report. I mentioned, hey, that's great. We're up 20% versus budget on our sales tax receipts. But the scary part of that is that we're almost exactly flat versus 23. So we're up versus budget, but we're not up necessarily versus last year. And so the reason I'm asking some of these questions is, sure, the government needs its revenue. I mean, we need the sales tax to come in. There's that part. But for me, all of these pieces are a proxy for what's going on in our businesses as well. And that, to me, is what's important here, is what's happening in the economy itself, because all of these pieces drive these other numbers that we see. And so, and one of the things that I appreciate from your presentation is that you're transparent. I mean, not all this is all that rosy right now. Just being honest about it. There's a lot of things that we would love to see moving in the right direction, but I think that is a microcosm of what's going on nationwide. And, I think the hope would be that things change here as some nationwide factors start to adjust, but it's going to take a while. Is that your take as well?
You know what, Alderman Blessum, thanks for the question. And yes, Mayor Ross, if I can just address that, there's no doubt that there's a lot of factors going on. And the thing that's, I guess I'll say concerning, I won't say scary, but the thing that is definitely keeping us up at night is okay, what do we do about that? We can't control, we can't control the nationwide economy and things like that. There's stuff that we can't control. And so what we focus on is what we can control and what we do at Visit Minot. And I'll tell you that this isn't always a popular approach. And we look at every component that we do with a very critical eye. So when it says, hey, we had a breakdown of this many sessions and this, okay, what went good? Okay, what didn't go good? And, while that culture is not meant for everybody, I'm the first to admit that culture is not meant for everybody. But at the end of the day, it's the culture that we have right now. It's the only culture that I will choose to be part of. Because it says, okay, but what can we do better? Yes, that might have went well, but what can we do better? Because there's circumstances that we can't control, and things of the pricing of goods going up, the pricing of groceries going up, and things like that impact people's disposable income. And at the end of the day, when we are essentially trying to entice people to spend their disposable income on things that are enjoyable, that's what our day job is, right? And so we have to be aware of all those other factors and focus more specifically on the things where we can move the needle.
Any other questions?
Steph, just so you know, you don't have to send me that. I will email them the link to the presentation from that agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Steph. Oh, I'm sorry.
No questions.
No question. Thank you, Steph.
I appreciate Alderman Blessum's comments. Again, some of this stuff isn't that rosy, and I sit on the Visit Minot board as the representative from council, and these are tough discussions that we have on that board level. And to Steph's point, we control what we can control. That way, when those factors on a nationwide or disposable income and some of those factors do change, Visit Minot has positioned this community in this region to be in position to capitalize on those things when they do change, whether that's through the partnerships with the city, the partnerships with the user groups that we work with. So again, I just want to tip my hat to Steph and my colleagues on the Visit Minot board and the work and the level of seriousness that they take what we're doing, because I think it is something that we are reaping benefits from at this point. But I think when other factors do come into play and do change, we will really see that kind of gas on the fire. So.
Mike.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I was trying to figure out where the best spot to make this comment was. I think this is as good a spot as any. One of the things that happened over the last day or so here is that we had a lot of tax notices show up in people's mailboxes. One of the things that I think was really important that I want to commend my colleagues on and the hard work that we did during our budget process is that we did put some money back in the hands of our citizens and of our residents of the city, and that's important. My daughter's case, she owns a condo, $800. Her property tax went down through a combination of the primary tax credit from the state and through the work that we did at the city, because believe me, the rest of the local subs did not provide the tax relief that we did here. And so as we look at trying to do this, certainly the work that Steph and team are doing and the board there, trying to bring in visitors from outside, a big part of driving our economy happens right here in our community as well. And so I just wanted to say thanks again to my colleagues. We did a good job this year, and I hope that we're able to continue to do the same thing, because this stuff matters. As I've talked about with my daughter, mid-20s, newly married, that's $800 in her pocket now that hopefully they can have a night out together with her new husband, once or twice a month. That's going right back into the economy. This is why this stuff matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any further comments? Thank you, Steph. Moving on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. I'm sorry, Rob.
Could I have a couple, two quick discussion items I'd like to bring up,
Okay.
just if I could. First, is it possible, Mr. Moss from the Fraternal Order of Police was a little bit late, and he would like to come up and speak for a couple of minutes and thank the police department? Is that possible?
Without objection? Yep.
Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Aaron Moss. I represent tonight the Fraternal Order of Police. My apologies for being late for personal appearances, and my gratitude for your indulgence for a few minutes. I just wanted to speak, as I do annually, or somebody from our lodge speaks annually, about events, recent events, or annual events in the city of Minot that our lodge and other members of law enforcement participate in, namely the Stuff Squad Toy Drive, which occurred on December 1st. Thanks to Captain Plessis with the police department continuing to give us permission to for police officers in our lodge to wear their uniforms and utilize vehicles. We set up outside of Walmart and did a toy drive, just asking shoppers to donate an unwrapped toy. And the citizens of Minot and surrounding communities really did come through again this year and donated four squad cars worth of toys, which were shared with the Community Action Partnership, the Minot Area Homeless Coalition, and the Domestic Violence Crisis Center for their clients to take a little burden off the holiday season for their clients. Additionally, this yesterday we participated in, I believe it's the 21st Shop with a Cop Cops and Kids event again at Walmart, and Lodge 7 here in Minot had a record-breaking 147 children participate in that, where each child was given a budget of $200 this year to purchase whatever they wanted for themselves, for their siblings, families, but primarily we have them focus in on themselves, because these kids oftentimes don't have that opportunity. And while that number is very, very, very impressive, I want to put it in even a bigger context. The rest of the lodges in the state of North Dakota combined, we're headed towards, by the end of this week, we should have about 500 or so kids statewide in 8 of 9 different lodge events. And so, said another way, Minot's community consistently supports 30% of the kids that are participating in this worthy event, and that we are proud to participate in, and with a goodly number of our members in Lodge 7 here in Minot being members of the Minot Police Department. We are grateful for the opportunity to continue to do this each year. So I thought it was important to bring that up this year, considering some of the negative press and some of the concerns that we've seen in the community with the police department, and just show that it's not everything is always doom and gloom. That we are extraordinarily happy to continue to participate in this event with the support of the Minot Police Department and Captain Dale Plessis. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions, Mr. Moss? Seeing none, thank you.
Thanks
Thank you so
Mayor.
much, and thank you for what your crews do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rob?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today, I received a text message this morning that I want to read to my fellow city council members. I would like an update on meeting with Alex from FHE Health. It will be 7 weeks this Thursday since Mitch's death. I feel, and so do others, that too much time has passed. I'm not a fan of texting or phone calls. They are ineffective and inefficient. I would like a meeting. I'm leaving messages, but my calls are not being returned. That message that we received this morning was from the mother of Officer Mitch Watney, who we tragically lost 7 weeks ago. I'm saddened that Suzanne felt she had to send that text message out, and this shouldn't be acceptable to any one of us sitting on this dais, whether we're a city council member or city staff. Since her son's death, Suzanne has asked the city for one thing: to look at establishing an outreach and aftercare program for officers and first responders who are struggling or may need help in the future. Her hope is that no other parent, spouse, or child of an officer or first responder will ever have to endure the pain that her and her family are living through currently. She's already done a lot of the legwork for us. She's reached out and connected with Alex from FHE Health, also known as Shatterproof, a treatment facility based in Florida. Shatterproof has an established outreach and aftercare program that they're eager to help us implement here, marking it the first program of its kind in our state. Currently, there are no outreach or aftercare programs in North Dakota for officers or first responders, something that urgently needs to change. These programs are pretty common in larger cities and other states, but here we have a unique opportunity to be leaders in this effort, not only for Minot, but for all the first responders in our state. We frequently express pride in the work of our city employees, but I feel these words ring hollow if we don't back them up with meaningful action. Doing the right thing should always be the easiest thing. I know it's the holiday season and everyone is busy, but is there anything more important in our city business than taking care of our first responders? In the last 3 years, our department has tragically lost 2 officers to suicide. Could these losses have been prevented with an outreach program? We'll never have an answer to that for sure, but don't we owe it to them and every single first responder in this city to find out? Would these individuals still be with us if they had access to the mental health resources and support they needed? I know one mom who believes her son would still be here this Christmas if he had those resources. Right now, there's a mother and a grieving family who feel that we are failing them. This will be the hardest holidays the Watney family will ever endure. I know I've had recent conversations with Harold and Tom Joyce, and we all agree that this is something we can't take time on. So for Mitch and his family, I'd like to make a motion tonight to direct city staff to immediately begin the process and take the necessary steps to move this initiative forward. I encourage my fellow council members to support this motion and join me in directing city staff to take swift action. Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a question to Alderman Fuller, because I'm not aware of what this entails. And so certainly I would be supportive, but I would like to have more information.
I think in the conversations that Tom, myself, and Harold may have had, maybe I'm speaking out of turn with Harold. I don't know if he spoke directly with Suzanne. She's asking us to speak with Alex from Shatterproof about helping to establish an outreach and aftercare program for officers who have gone through some type of treatment for PTSD or something like that. They already have a well-established program down in Florida where they're based, and they said they would easily be able to help us implement that up here. So what does that entail? We don't know because we haven't started the process. That's what I would like to get started for Suzanne because, 7 weeks, and I get it. We all have a lot of things going on. The city business is the city business, but I don't believe, honestly, that there's anything more important right now in our city than this. So,
Tom.
Mayor Ross, Alderman Fuller, and other members of council. I too have been trading phone calls and talking with Suzanne Watney, and I followed up with her this afternoon. Alderman Fuller, just so you know, we kind of went back and forth last week. But I did let her know that we have made contact with Alex with FHE. I know Mayor Rossi, you spoke with him early last week, I believe. So the intent at this time is to set up a meeting, a follow-on meeting with Alex, as you suggested, Mayor Ross, with yourself, City Manager Stewart, myself, even invite Ms. Watney to sit in. Because as Alderman Fuller said, I mean, she truly cares. I have some experience, unfortunately, working with the family members of fallen heroes, and have done that for a good portion of my career. And the fact that she's offering to assist in some way is just huge kudos to her to help us get to improving our behavioral health programs, improving our suicide prevention programs. And again, it's not just for the police department, although that's the initial focus, but other emergency services, fire department, dispatch. They just that group has different needs than most of us, to put it bluntly. I was giving the example last week when talking to Alderman Fuller and City Manager Stewart. In my experience working in the military, it's similar with Special Operations Forces. They have similar, they have needs that the majority of the forces don't have. So in our U.S. Armed Forces, we have moved forward with Special Operations and over time improved and given even more and more resources. So I just want to give you that update, Alderman Fuller, that she was very well receptive to the fact that we're moving on. But I think that phone call was after that initial email. But we've been trading conversations back and forth, and she looks forward to that and to be able to continue to work with us for all of our emergency services personnel. I stand by for any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions for Tom Joyce?
Just want to say thank you, Tom, for reaching out to her. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, not a question for Tom, but actually for Rob. They just mentioned there's discussions going on. I mean, would you be willing to be a part of those discussions and be right there? I assumed you would, but I thought I'd throw that out because, I think these are the types of things where if we can step into that as well, we can fill that void a little bit between the residents and the city and make sure that that's pushing through to fruition.
Yeah, I'm absolutely willing to help in any way, shape, or form that I need to. I'm not trying to step on any toes because I know she's talked to Tom already as well, so I don't know if he was involved. My next couple of weeks are going to kind of be up in the air a little bit. So, I mean, I would love to be involved and help. I just don't know what I'll be able to do while I'm gone. So,
Dale.
Mayor Ross and Alderman Fuller and City Council members. I don't know specifically who she contacted at the city and who's not getting back to her, but I can promise you that if she's calling me, I'm getting back to her. And it doesn't take a direction from the council for me to do that, or anybody that I would, any of my employees, anybody who works for the police department as far as I'm concerned.
Let me just say, Captain Plessis, that she didn't say you. And I'm not calling anybody out or criticizing anybody. Again, this is just something that she's very passionate about because obviously she just lost her son. She's been very happy, I think, with the response from the police department and all the support that she's gotten from you guys, at least that she's told me. So.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we made that clear. Obviously she is a top priority for us. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no further discussion, please record your vote. Oh, geez. Oh, damn.
I logged out.
Oh, you're
Martha,
allowed
can I
to.
just wait? Yeah.
You want me to just roll call it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Fuller,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson, Pittner,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Samuelson,
Yes.
Blessam.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you all.
Any further discussion under miscellaneous? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 10 on the agenda, and that is liaison reports. Let's start with Scott Samuelson.
Ward County Planning Commission, we have a meeting on Thursday, which, depending on our special city council meeting, I may not make that one. On December 4th, I was able to attend the League of Cities legislative workshop in Bismarck. Took away some really good information. Got to watch the governor, or former governor, give his budget address, and got to talk to some legislators and some other leaders around the state. So it was good.
Mark.
The liaison committee for city, county, school, and parks has not met. We'll be meeting after the first of the year. The MPO board will be meeting this coming Thursday at 4:30, and we are cleaning up some work to be ready for 2025 and moving into that new year.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, I attended the Ward County Emergency Planning Commission meeting, and that was informational and good as well. Yesterday, we had a 4-hour meeting at the library for the library board for the EAPC came in for their analysis and survey. Gave them some good feedback there, and then I believe Thursday night is when we're supposed to have our Ward County Planning Commission, but I will be out of town, so I won't be able to attend that one.
Thank you. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Renaissance Zone Board last month was canceled. We have this one this Thursday. Steph was nice enough to give the report for Visit Minot, which I think sums up what we're doing there. Had Economic Development Review Committee. I'll maybe let Alderman Blessam touch on that, but we continue to have some good conversations, set up some good goals and priorities within that committee, as well as the presentations. And we had so much information. We're going to continue the city programs at our next meeting coming up. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Paul. Mike?
Yeah, so I've got a busy week this week. We've got a 911 committee meeting Thursday, Minot Commission on Aging Friday, so I'll have updates on those next month. And as Paul mentioned, the other big one is the Economic Development Plan Review Committee, and we've had a great set of presentations. We're in the middle of the city presentations. Harold and Brian Billingsley are doing a nice job on those, and I'm looking forward to it. I think we're having the types of discussions that I was hoping for, and I think that coming out the back end of it, we may have some tweaks that we bring back to council that we'll talk about.
Lisa?
November 25th, I was part of the South Basin Loan Review Committee, and as Alderman Janser mentioned, we have the MPO meeting this Thursday. We have South Basin Executive Board meeting tomorrow. That's it.
And my report was part of the mayor's report. So before we adjourn, I just want to remind everybody we have the holiday train here tomorrow downtown at Main Street and in Central Avenue. So invite, it looks like the weather should be okay for that. But come on out for another one of our holiday traditions here in the Magic City. If there's nothing further, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.